In this video, I want to share some important tips that I wish I knew in my second year of playing the clarinet.
My name is Josh Gu, and I'm taking my years of experience learning, teaching, and performing, and sharing all of my best clarinet and music tips so you can get more out of your practice, and most importantly, have fun. You can learn more about all of my many resources at QuickStartClarinet.com, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to get notified when I post new videos.
So if you haven't seen my first year video, you may want to check that out. Or if you're in your second year and you're ready to go, then stick with this one here. This is a fun little series I'm doing where I go through sort of year by year what I wish I knew and what I would go back and tell my younger self to hopefully reach some of you first, second, third, etc. year players and help you to get these tips in, get those fundamentals down so that playing clarinet can be easier and more enjoyable for you. So without further ado, let's get into the tips for second year players. I'm gonna start this one off with actually a more general music tip rather than a clarinet specific tip, because this was one of the biggest things for me. I remember my second year of playing, we got out of our sort of fundamentals book where we were playing just 1 to 3 line exercises and started doing actual sheet music where we were playing through a whole page with the group, and we had more independent parts and things like that. And I remember getting lost all the time. I specifically remember maybe my second concert that year, like the spring concert of 6th grade, after the concert being so proud of myself because I was able to keep track of where we were the entire program for like the 3 one-page pieces that we had played, and I was just so proud of myself. And that goes to show that I did get it eventually, but also there were so many times that I would get lost. And the secret to not getting lost that I wish I knew in my 6th grade year was not to worry so much about playing the notes and getting everything to come out of the instrument, but to focus on the steady beat. Focus on the beat that the conductor is giving. Follow along in the measure where the beats are, rather than trying to find all the complicated notes and all the stuff that's going on and getting overwhelmed by all of that other information and trying to get it. Because when it comes to playing music, it's not about taking as much time as you need to get your fingers in the right spot and remember to do the dynamics and figure out all of the notes. It's about playing together and staying in time with that steady beat. So that's my general music tip for second year players. Now let's get into some more clarinet specific tips that I would have. Starting off, I have one about reeds, and this is that the reed placement matters. How your reed is on the mouthpiece makes a difference, and there's no perfect spot. I know a lot of times we tell beginners like something about a fingernail where it's either like just a little sliver of black should be showing over or a little sliver of reed should be showing over the other side. And I think that teaches early players that we're trying to find like a perfect spot where the reed's gonna work. And that's simply not the case. There's no perfect place where you should put every reed every single time. It varies from reed to reed, mouthpiece to mouthpiece, person to person, day to day. So instead of trying to find a perfect place, maybe experiment with it a little bit. I think in general, lined up will be better than offset, but there are actually some reeds that just a little bit off center actually helps the reed to play better. And same thing with the height. That one is the big one to be experimenting with and exploring. If you go a little higher with the reed, it's going to feel a little bit firmer, stronger, more stable. If you go a little bit lower with the reed, it'll feel a little bit easier. The notes will come out a little bit faster, but it might be a little bit harder to control. So you want to find that sweet spot where it's going to work the best. And it's very small. There's still a general sweet spot. Again, we don't want our reeds completely off center or completely super high or super low or anything like that. We want to find that sweet spot, and there's sort of a zone that we can experiment and explore a little bit. So that's what I wish I knew my second year of playing, is that I'm not trying to get the reed on in a perfect place, but I can explore and adjust and experiment a little bit to find what's best for that reed for that day. Along with the reed side of things, another thing that I wish I knew that second year was to just put more mouthpiece in my mouth. I think this is one of the things that almost all beginners struggle with, and actually probably almost all clarinetists struggle with, is getting actually enough mouthpiece in your mouth, enough reed in your mouth. The sound is all about vibrations of the reed and air resonating through the instrument. So the more mouthpiece that you have in your mouth, the more reed it will vibrate, the more air that will get into the instrument, and the better sound you'll have. That's true up until a point. You can put too much mouthpiece in your mouth, and that's where you'll start squawking and squeaking really, really loud all the time. But once you've hit that point, then you know that's too much, and you can back off just a little bit from there, and you'll be in a pretty good place. And you can try this right now. Try starting with very little mouthpiece in your mouth, and then add more and more and more and more until you get that really loud squawk. Back off a little bit from there, and that's probably your sweet spot, or where it's going to sound the best. And I bet that's going to feel like more mouthpiece than you're used to having in your mouth, right? And it'll take a little getting used to have that much mouthpiece in your mouth, but it's something to always be thinking about. If it feels really comfortable how much is in your mouth, it's probably not enough. You could probably go a little bit more. And the nice thing is you know immediately when you've gone too far, because you get those big squawks and squeaks. So that's my little mouthpiece tip. Now my next tip is one of the best ones I find in the second year, is usually when we start crossing the break, going up to the next register. And I want you to just relax about this. Crossing the break isn't nearly as hard as we think. A lot of times band teachers will teach crossing the break, which I think is great. It's important to understand what's going on with the instrument there and how that's working. But I think sometimes it gets in our head a little bit where we think, oh, I'm crossing the break now, I'm going up to B, this is going to be really hard. And then we make it harder for ourselves because we tighten up, we use less air, we miss with the fingers because there's just so much tension there. The secret to doing anything that's hard is to make it easy. So when you're crossing the break, instead of thinking, oh, this is something hard that I'm going to have to do, think, there's a lot of components going on here. We have to move a lot of fingers. We have to make sure that there's enough air support and reed vibrations, make sure there's enough mouthpiece in the mouth. But it doesn't have to be stressful or tense to do that. You can just very easily land with the fingers, keep the reed vibrating, and it's going to come out no problem. One quick little exercise I would recommend for anybody who's working on that A to B transition is, first of all, I still call it the break, most people call it crossing the break, but maybe try to eliminate that vocabulary a little bit. There's not a big break there, it's nothing complicated, and instead play the B first, get that feeling really good and confident, know that your fingers are there and set, then keep the air flowing the same as it is on the B, move to the A, with as little finger motion as possible, and still steady embouchure, steady airflow, and then move back to the B. And see if that can be easy and not stressful, not complicated, not scary. Just B, A, B. It's not nearly as hard as we work it up in our heads to be. And my last piece of advice for second year players, this one might sound a little bit crazy, but I want you to start practicing your chromatic scale. And it doesn't have to be a full range chromatic scale by any means. You could even do just from like C to open G, doing the chromatic scale, or maybe one octave from low G up to open G. Something very simple, just to start learning these notes. The chromatic scale, in my opinion, is the very best way to learn all the notes on the instrument, because you're having to play all the notes on the instrument. And the sooner you can be familiar with all of the notes on the instrument, the better off you're going to be. And remember, from year one, that good relaxed hand position, you don't have to do anything crazy to reach any of these chromatic keys. It's all about just relaxed, natural. Look at your fingering chart, figure out the fingering, think through it, start memorizing the pattern of where your fingers go for the chromatic scale in however small of a chunk you need to do, and it will pay dividends in the long run of your playing to be familiar with these notes and really confident and comfortable with them as early as possible in your playing. So those are my tips for a second year player. Leave a like if you liked this, and I'll make some more of them. Leave a comment with any of the tips that I missed or any of your top tips for second year players or the things that you wish you knew in your second year of playing, and we can have a nice little collection in the comments of things to be thinking about and exploring and experimenting with. So thanks so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in another one. And last but not least, a huge heartfelt thank you to the Dennersons. This is like the QuickStart Clarinet family who supports the channel and helps to make everything that I do possible. If you would like to support the channel and get some awesome rewards in return where we can work one-on-one over video and you can have my full support moving forward on your clarinet journey, then go to quickstartclarinet.com/supporter.